Hi, in this video we will add a navigation menu here on the left of the website. So this will be in the form of a vertical sidebar and it will contain all the web pages of the website. Currently we only have the home page and we don't have that sidebar, so our website looks like this. So let's add that sidebar here on the left. That is very easy to do. All you have to do is first create a folder in your project directory. So a directory, and name it pages with lowercase letters. So pages and not page or anything else. It should be pages. So that is a folder, and this folder should be in the same directory with your main.py file. So main and pages are inside my root project directory. Once you have created that folder, then you want to right click over that folder and go to new and create a new Python file. Name it contact_us. Press enter and that will create a contactus.py file. Import streamlit.sst here and then add a component such as a header. Contact me or contact us. Now go to your website, refresh if that's necessary, and you'll see the sidebar here. And that's our website. And if you click on Contact Us, you'll see that Contact Me header that we added in here. So that's how Streamlit works. To add more pages to your website, so to have a multi-page app, you can add this pages folder, and inside that pages folder you can add more files. So we can add one more, for example, just to test it. Test. Import streamlit.sst, st.write. Hello, go to the website, and there we go. We have one more page. So as you can see, the names of these pages here correspond to the names of the Python files. So test will be rendered as test. Contact us with that underscore will be rendered as contact us, but without the underscore. So that's an intelligent way of extracting those names from Streamlit. You also see that we have the main page, the home page, which is main currently. If you want to change the name, you want to change the name of your main.py file, which is located outside of the pages folder. So the home page should be located outside. So right click, go to refactor, rename, or use that shortcut and rename it to home.py with a capital H maybe. Refresh. Now the first time you refresh the page, you're not going to see any output because our project here, the terminal, we are still running the main.py file, but we changed the name now. So we want to stop this process by clicking here and then Ctrl+C. So this has stopped. Now we can do streamlit run home.py. Right, so that's the URL. And there we go. So home, contact us, and test. So currently we only have this content here, but our plan now in the next video is to add a form here. A form which allows the user to send an email. So let's code the form first, and then after that we code the email sending script. So test has to be deleted because we don't need it anymore. So go to delete or use the shortcut on your keyboard. And yeah, let's commit the changes. This is day 23. Add navigation menu and contact us page and commit. Yeah, and that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, welcome back. In this video we will build this web form with Python and Streamlit. So let me explain you what this is about first before we build it. So we're going to have this label, contact me, which we already have. So that's a contact us page, which is going to contain the form. So we have this contact me label, and then we're going to have this text box with this label, and in this text box the user, the visitors, will enter their email address. So the purpose of this contact form is for visitors to send you an email. And for that, you as the website owner, you need their email address. So the user, the visitor, will enter their email address here and their message, what they want to tell you. And when they press submit, you are going to receive an email to your own email address. In that email, you're going to see the message of the user and also the email address of the user. For example, let's suppose that the user enters their email address here, such as user@example.com, and then they enter their message here. They write something, and then they press the submit button. In your email, what you're going to receive is something like this. So that's the user message and that's the email of the user. So all that is going to be sent to your email address. So we're going to set up the email script later on, and I do recommend you to use Gmail. So if you don't have a Gmail account, please open one just for testing purposes. And yeah, let's go back to PyCharm and create that form with st.form. So it's as straightforward as that, just like we used with in the case of the home page with columns. So basically we have a column, and inside that column we have components which belong to that column. The same we do with the form. So form is a component which is going to contain other components, such as the user email, which is going to be st.text input. Text input is a component which we used in the to-do app. So that was the text box where we enter new to-dos, but in this case we're going to enter an email address. So if we go to the web page now, refresh, first you're going to see this error. It says that the form is missing one argument, key. So that's an error message. You can also see the error message down here. It is the same error message. And in here you can also click on that line and it will take you where the error message occurred exactly. So it's telling you that the key argument is missing. Therefore you need to add a key. What is a key? We did cover keys before, so a key is like an ID of this component, the form ID, the form components. So here you want to write some ID like my form or email form, and then later this might be used in the script to refer to this form. So for some components, keys are mandatory, and Streamlit will tell you through an error when that happens. With that, let's refresh the page, and yeah, that's what we have. So your email address, that's the label of the text input. We also have this now. It's telling us that the form is missing a submit button, which we're going to add in just a bit. But before we do that, we also have this text form. Now, this is a text input, but for this, for the text or the message, we're going to have a text area. So this is different because it allows us to enter multi-line texts as opposed to just one single piece of text in one line, such as is the case of the email address. Your message here, and yeah, let's refresh. Yeah, so your email address, your message, and let's add now the submit button. let's say button is equal to st dot. We don't use the button component now, but we use a special button, form submit button. This is a special button in the sense that it is designed to submit the form it belongs to. So this button belongs to this form, and when pressed it will submit this form. Now, what is form submission anyway? Well, these data could be sent to a database, so wherever the user enters here, they could be sent to a database, or an email could be triggered, as is the case for our app. Or you could show another page when the button is submitted. So all these three scenarios are form submissions. When you press the button, these data are being processed in some way or another. So they may be sent to a database, they may be sent to an email, etc. Therefore, we say here, if button do something here. So for now, let's print something like I was pressed. And currently we need to give a label to the submit button as well, such as that. Refresh, and finally we see the submit button. So now, when I press that submit button, this text should be printed out here in the terminal. So let's try that. Submit, and that's the text printed out. I was pressed. So if you want to know what actually is this button, so let's refresh again, press submit, go here, and you see that the button is actually a Boolean type. It could be either true or false. So when we say if button, we are checking if true. So if the value of the button is true, then we do this. Otherwise, the value of the button will be false. So if we print out the button at this point and we refresh the page, we go back to the terminal and you see that false was printed out. So when we refresh the page, all the content, all the code is executed. Anytime a web page is loaded, the code is executed for that web page. That means this was printed out. However, since the button is false, these were not printed out. They are only printed out when the button is pressed. So now we get true and I was pressed. Therefore, here now we can send an email. So we can write the code that sends out an email. And in that email we will enter the message of the user, and we also send the user email in the message body. So basically we will do something like message is equal to message plus user email, and then here write the code of the email sending. I'll show you how that works, and send that message with the email to our email address, my personal email address. In my case, in your case, you should put your own email address, which I do recommend to create a new one. We'll cover that in the next video. So for now, let's keep it like that, and I'll talk to you in the next video. We will send an email in that video. See you. Hey, welcome back. By the end of this video, you'll know how to send emails via Python. Now, this video is consisting of two parts. The first part is where we write a script that sends an email. So when we execute that script, an email is sent out from one email address to another email address. And the second part is that we will connect that script to this form so that the email is sent when the user submits the form with this button. And the body of the email will be the message that the user enters here. Yeah, so let's start with the first part. there are some prerequisites for this. This will work with any email address, but Gmail is the best solution. And with Gmail, you'll not need to do any changes to the code. And if you use Outlook, for example, you'll have to do some research to do some adjustment in the code that I'll write. So if you want to stay in the same lines with me, I do recommend you to open a Gmail account if you don't have one. So once you have a Google account, you want to open your account, go to this icon, and then go to manage your Google account. What we want to do here before we start coding is we want to create an app password. Because you cannot simply use the main password you use to log into your Gmail account. So you want to create a specific password, and that's for security reasons. So to do that, first you want to search here on this search box. You want to search for step verification. And then you want to go to the two-step verification result. So not this one, but this one. And if your two-step verification is turned off, you need to turn it on. Otherwise, you can skip this step. So you want to click there, and here you need to enter a phone number because you will receive an SMS. So now I have turned on two-step verification. I can click on done. I can go back to that search box and then search for app password. And then you should see this result, app password. You can click there, and here you can give a name to your app. So for every app you create, you want to have a separate password. So let's call this app just sending emails. Yeah, I'll keep it simple. And that will be the password. So copy that password. So that's a Gmail password, but it works only for logging in through apps. In this case, it will be a Python app. So for that, in the root directory, I'll create a new script, send email.py, and I'll create a variable password and paste that code in there. So inside double quotes. So that is a string, and the username is going to be my Gmail account, which was app8flask@gmail.com. @gmail.com. So that's also a string. So that's the username and the password that Python will use as credentials to log in to our Gmail account and have access to sending emails from our Gmail account. Now, storing a password inside a .py file as a string is not a good idea. This is not a secure way to store passwords. A better way is to use environment variables. Indeed, in today's programming tool, I will show you how to make this script more secure by using environment variables. But for now, let's keep the password as a string and focus on sending the actual email. To write a script which sends emails, we need the smtplib library. So this is a standard Python library, and it is used as an email library which creates an email client session. Now, smtplib needs some parameters to be defined first. So we got this username and password, but we also need the host of Gmail, and that is a standard host, which is smtp.gmail.com. So that's specific for Gmail accounts. We are sending emails from a Gmail account. And then we have the port, that is also standard, and it's an integer 465. So once you have done that, you want to create a secure context. For that, we need the SSL library, and we do ssl.create default context. And so that's the variable which holds this secure context for sending emails securely. And then all you have to do is use a with context manager and point to smtplib.smtpssl. So that's a method. And here you provide the host, the port, and the context. So with that, we are ready to send out an email. You see that host is that variable, port is that, and the context is that variable. And we still haven't used username and password. We'll do that now. So this would be as a server, so that's just a variable. The variable is equal to the output of this, and then using that server, we say server.login username password. So that's the email address, and that's the password of that email address. So we log in as a user, the owner of that account, and then we use the server again and the send email method. Send email wants the sender email address, which is equal to username again, so that. Then it also needs the receiver email address. So let's define the receiver somewhere in here. Receiver is equal to, well, so the receiver could also be the same, actually, the same Gmail account. Now we're just testing things out, so that would work. Like you send an email from your email address and you send it to your own email address. If you have two Gmail accounts, you can put here your other Gmail account, that's also fine. If you don't have, that's fine too. So that will be the receiver. And finally the message. The message is a variable which we haven't defined yet. We can define it right here. This is good to be a multi-line string. How are you? And bye. Yeah, so that's it. And that's the complete script to send out a single email from that email address to that email address. Let's execute this and see how things go from here. So I just ran the program now and I should wait for the email to be sent out. Now, if you have VPN enabled in your computer, then it should take 1 to 2 minutes for the email to be sent out. If you don't have VPN enabled, then the email should be sent out instantly. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you get this error, that the connection is unexpectedly closed, you should have a look at your code. And I can see here that PyCharm is already warning me about this. This actually should be connected to a name. Context is equal to context. Because if I right click over SMTP SSL and I go to implementations, we're going to see that this method here expects a host, a port, and we gave those arguments. So we gave the host, the port. So the host is this string, right? So this string goes directly as the value of this host argument. Now these names are just variables. In our case, host and port. They could be other variables, so this variable is not the same as that, it could be different. So this is the name of the argument of this method, and that is the variable name. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that the order of these arguments matter. So we say here, give this host as the first argument, and that will go to that. And then the port will go to that, but then if you leave the context as it was, just like that, then the context will go to the next argument, so it will be the value of the local host name. But we want context to be the value of the context arguments, so if you really want that to go to the actual argument, to the context argument, you want to be explicit and mention here that you want the context argument to have the context variable. So that is the name of the argument, this one, right? And that is the name of this variable. So this could also be my context, and here you would say my context. It's the same thing, but let's just leave it context. Now let's try again. I hope that was a good error because it helps you to understand how arguments work. So functions or methods with multiple arguments, such as this method here, you see it's defined in here and it has multiple arguments. So you have the choice to either respect the order of these arguments without having to write their names, as we do here. We just write the values. It could be variables or direct strings, it doesn't matter. Or if you don't want to respect the order, then you want to specifically mention the argument name. That's a very good point. That's why I took a lot of time to explain it, because you may encounter it with other scenarios in the future when developing apps. Now, as we're waiting, another error you might have if you are on a Mac computer is an SSL error. If that happens, you should go to your applications on Mac and then search for Python 3.11 or Python 10, whatever you're using. Double click there, and then you should double click over install certificates, and that should install the SSL certificate, and then try to send out the email again. Right, my process finished, so I should go now to my Gmail account, and that's the email I have just received. So it doesn't have a subject. If you want a subject, I'll show you how to have one. So hi, how are you? Bye. Now if you want to have a subject, then you want to write here subject colon space, and there goes the subject. So you should have that in the first line of your multi-line string. In this case, hi will be the subject of the email. And also you need here a backslash. The backslash is needed because without the backslash, you are implying that you have a break line here, and the break line shouldn't be there when you want to send a subject. So that's the syntax basically. And you'll see that now hi will be the syntax of the new email. So run the script, and you should wait about a minute for the email to be sent out. It could be up to 2 minutes. And the process finished, so the email should be here now. Yeah, so that is the subject hi, and that's the body of the email. So that's the final script for sending out an email. So that's a separate script. We haven't yet connected it to our web page, to our form. So in the next video, we're going to do that. So now you know how to send emails, but in the next video, you'll have some real world skills. So how to actually be flexible with your programs so that you can reuse this script and connect it easily with that form. So that will give you real life skills to build actual apps. Yeah, so let's commit the changes. This will be day 23. Send email, that should be fine. Press on commit. And that was about this video. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, welcome back. In the previous video, we wrote this script which sends this message via email. In this video, we want to connect this script to that form. What do I mean by connecting them? Well, it means that when the user presses the submit button in here, the message here and that email address will be sent as an email to that email address, the receiver, which is our email address. We're not sending anything to the user email address actually, so that is just part of the email message. So that's just a piece of information. The email will be sent from our email address to our email address, which happen to be the same, but you could have the receiver a different email address that you own. Right, so how do we connect these? Well, the very first step you want to take is you want to place all this code in a function. And then you want to call that function somewhere here in the Contact Us page, in the form. So when the button is pressed, we want to call that function. So let's create that function first. There are two ways to create the function. You either do it automatically by selecting all the scripts except of the import statement and right-clicking if you are in PyCharm, and then go to refactor and then go to extract method. Place a name for the method such as send email. So this is a function, and press OK. And what that will do is it will place all the selected code inside this function definition, and then it will call that function. So that's one way, using the refactoring function of PyCharm. Now I'll do Ctrl Z, and show you the other way, which is manual. So you just select that, press the tab to indent it, and then up here you say define send email with an underscore and a colon here. If you press on reformat file, it will add a new line here. So yeah, to have 2 break lines because that's more visually appealing. So PyCharm is suggesting us to do that, and we did. And that's the function. So the first step was to create the function. The next step is we want to make sure that the design of the function is correct. By design, I mean what input does the function take and what output does it return. So is there any argument that the function should take from the form? So what are we getting from the form? That should be the input of the function, because we cannot just say here send email. We want to pass some values, maybe the message. So that message. Yeah, so let's import send email first. So we're talking about that file, send email. The send email file is in the root directory. That means I can just do from send email import send email. So from send email, that file, import the send email function in contact us where the form is, and then we call that function here with send email. Now you see that message is highlighted by PyCharm. That means there's an issue with that. The issue is that if you hover your mouse here, PyCharm tells you that this is an unexpected argument because the function doesn't take any argument. So let's add here an argument. Let's say message. So we want the message to be sent from the form, so that message. And if you want, you can also say message equals to message plus a break line plus the user email. So what I just did is something like this. Let me explain you here using the Python console. So basically, if we have the message like hi there, and what we did is message is equal to message, which is hi there, plus \n, which is a break line, plus the user email, which is going to be, for example, user@example.com. If you press enter and then you check what message is, you're going to see that now we have this updated string, right? Which if you print it out, if you render it with a print function, it will have this break line instead of that n symbol. And in the email, this n symbol is also expected to be rendered as a break line. Right, so the message is sent to the send email function, and then instead of having that, so we delete that message because now we have this message variable, and that variable will go there. So from there goes in here, and from here goes in here. That's what will happen. So let's try as we have it for now. Make sure that this is running in the terminal. So it's running for me. I've executed streamlit run home.py. Home is the home page. So let's go here, refresh. Let's say the user has an email address of user.example.com. Hi there. I need to speak on Zoom. Submit. And you should wait a minute or two for the email to be sent out, because Streamlit executes fast, but the email sending process is a bit slow. So what's happening here is that the script is running at this point, sending out the email. So that function is being called now. This code is being executed, to be exact. And yeah, once you see that, that running process has disappeared from here. That means the email sending has completed. So you can go to your email account. So that's the email account you send the message to, which in my case corresponds to the receiver, and that's the email. So we have the message and we have a break line here, and then we have the user's email address, which was added to the message body. Now you see that we don't have a subject, so if we want to have a subject here, we should be using an f-string. So an f-string allows us to format the texts using more advanced techniques instead of just concatenating these strings using a plus operator. So instead of doing that, we need to use an f-string with a multi-line string, and we have this backslash and backslash, yeah. And then we have subject here, colon, a space, and let's say new email from. Here you can enter, actually, if you want, you can enter the email address of the user email. So if you want to have it in the subject. And you can also have it in the body. So that's the subject, and then here starts the content of the email body. That would be from. You can mention here the email address of the user again. So it's important to have the email address in the email body, because you see, if you are on Gmail, I can just click on that and I can start communicating with the actual user email. So it's easy for me now to send an email to that user. And then lastly, in the email, we want to have the actual message of the user, this one here. So let's call this the raw message, what we get from the text area. Then this is the last updated message, what we receive as an email. So that would be a raw message. So as email, we get that text, right? Yeah, let's try this. And I also like to add here an st.info component. This will be some text shown on a color background that the email was sent. So we can write here something like your email was sent successfully. Yeah, that's it. Let's go back to the app, refresh the page, user at example.com. Hi, I would like to connect and submit. You'll see again that the process is running, the email is being sent out. So in a minute we should see here the info which tells us that the email was sent successfully. So there we go, we got this component added here, your email was sent successfully. So what happens is that Python scripts always execute from top to bottom. So all the lines are executed. When this line is being executed, Python waits until this line is successfully executed and then executes the last line. And so when it does that, it adds that component to the web page. And let's check the email if we got it correctly. So there we go, new email from that email address. Hi, I would like to connect. We don't get that from part here, so let's see what's going on. So we had this part from, and we should have seen that in the email body. That didn't happen because we should have added a break line here. So let's try this again. Refresh user at example.com. Hi there, submit. The email was sent out, so let's check the new email. There we go. And yeah, that's the line we wanted from user.example.com. Hi there. So that concludes this video. Let's commit the changes. So that was day 23, send emails using the form. Yeah, make sure that the files are selected in here and press on commit. And yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot for following this and see you in next videos. Hi, I'm very excited to give you the instructions of today's exercise. Now, in yesterday's exercise, you built this web page. Today, your task is to add this Contact Us page to the website. What is this page? This page is for people to contact the company. This is very similar to the app, to the portfolio app we're building, but it does have something extra. Let me explain you what that is. So first we have this email address, which is the same as in the form of the portfolio website. And then we have this text box, which is also the same, and we have the button, which is also the same as the portfolio form. But in addition, we have this select box. So this is a Streamlit component. Now, you haven't learned how to create select boxes on Streamlit, but the process is easy. And the idea is that you should do some research on Google and find the Streamlit documentation on select boxes. The Streamlit documentation has examples as well, so that will make it easier for you to understand how the select box component works. Now, I could have also showed you here in a video quickly how select box works, but that wouldn't let you learn how to do things on your own. Searching for some code on the internet is a very crucial skill you need to learn now. So these data, job inquiries, project proposals, other, so the user can select one of these options, and you'll see that in the email which we receive as a company, we will see what topic the user wants to discuss. So the user can select one of these topics. Now, in the lecture resources, you can find the topics.csv file, which has these 3 topics. So your select box should take the data from that CSV file and render them here in the form. Now, before we close the video, let me demonstrate you how this works specifically. Let's say the user email is user@example.com and they want to talk about project proposals. And this will be their message. Hi, can we set up a Zoom call? I have a proposal. And then they'll submit the message using that button. And you should be receiving an email to the email address. So there, I received it. And this is what the email should consist of. So you see that we got this from the user email address, and then we have the topic of what the user wants to discuss. So that was project proposals. So the email looks like that. Topic, project proposals. Don't try to be exact here, so you can have topic, a colon here, or maybe you don't want to have the topic, but you should have this project proposal, so the value that is selected in the form here. And then that's the message of the user. And yeah, that's it. That's the feature you need to implement as part of this exercise. In the next video, I'll show you my solution, so please see my solution after you have tried to create yours. So see you in the next video. Hi, in this video I want to show you my solution to building this web page. And that's the complete code. So let me explain you what the code does. We import Streamlit here, we import the script send email, that script. We import pandas. Why do I need pandas? I need pandas here because I want to read the topics.csv file, which looks like this. So it has these 3 rows and a header and only 1 column. So let's go back to contactus.py, which is in pages in that folder. So that will create a data frame object instance, and then I create a form. I have this user email. Let me show you how it looks like on the web page. So that is the user email box. It's a text input component. Then we have this select box component, which starts here and it ends here. So that corresponds to this. The way this works is that we have this select box method, and then we have one argument here for that method and two arguments. The first argument is a label of the select box component, and the second argument should be a list-like object. In this case, df topic is a pandas series object which looks like a list. So basically, if you do import pandas and you read that topics.csv and df squares topic, so this one in here, it's like a list, so it contains items. And so here you can either pass a list or a series, a pandas series directly. And those values, the items, will be rendered here as options. So the user can choose an option here, and whatever the user chooses, that value, for example, job inquiries, that value, that string, will be the value of the option variable, which we will use later on down in here. And so then we have the row message. Here we capture the value that the user enters here, so a text area, whatever the user enters here will be stored in the row message variable. Then we construct this string, an f string. We have the subject of the email, we have the body of the email. It consists of these from topic strings and these placeholders. So the user email, which we will get it from this variable, the option, so that's the value that the user chose there. And so afterwards we have the button. If the button is pressed, we send out the email. And finally we show a message here that the email was sent successfully. And that was my solution to this exercise, and this project is completed. So thanks for following, and I'll see you in the next step. Hey, in this video you will learn a very important skill for any programmer, and that is how to store passwords securely. And we'll do that using environment variables. So you'll learn how to store passwords securely, and you'll learn how to create environment variables. So let's talk about the problem. Where does the problem stand? First, the problem is that in our script, which sends out an email, we are storing the password as a plain Python string. That is not secure, because let's imagine a scenario where you want to collaborate with someone else, another programmer. So you upload this code to a GitHub account, and then you invite that other person to your GitHub account. That's the normal way how you collaborate with other programmers. So this programmer can help you by adding some features to your program. And so that means they will see the current code and they will edit the current code. But in this code, you might have sensitive information, such as in this case, you have this password here and you don't want anyone else to see this password. And here is where environment variables come into help. So what you do is that you import the OS library in your script where you are storing the password. And then you want to cut out the password from there. So store it somewhere else for now, just to keep it handy, because we will store it as an environment variable in just a bit. But for now, what you do here is os.getEnv. And here you give a name to your environment variable, which we haven't created yet, but we will do it in just a bit. Let's say we name that environment variable password, right? So what's happening here is that this code will access the operating system and get the value for the password environment variable. That's the theory, but let's see it in practice. So let's add an environment variable in a Windows computer first, and then on a Mac computer, and then on a Linux computer. So if you are not on Windows, you can skip to the Mac part or to the Linux part. So let's see how to add it on Windows. And then we go back to the code here. So on Windows, you should go to your Start menu and search for Environment Variables and click on Edit the System Environment Variables. You should see this window, more or less. And then in this window, click on the Environment Variables button down here. And then here we have two sections. One section is for user variables and one section is for system variables. So we have two types of environment variables. The more secure ones to create are user variables. So we will work on here. And here you should go to the new button. And as a variable name, you should give the same name we gave to our Python script. For example, password. So let's check to make sure password, that value should go in here. And then the variable value is, as you might guess, the actual password of your Gmail account, the sensitive information you want to keep secure. So in my case, that's a password. So I'll press on OK again. And you'll see that a new environment variables has been added on Windows. So only the user account for this Windows computer has access to see that variable. So press OK again. So that now means that, if I start any Python script, I'm just starting a Python shell just to be quick. So what we did is we imported os.get env password as the name of the environment variable. So this will give me the value of my actual password. So basically what we're doing is that we let Python get the actual password from the computer operating system. So that means if someone else gets this script now, they don't have our password because our password is only stored on our own user account on our computer. So that's the idea about environment variables. And that was how to add environment variables on Windows. Now, how to add environment variables on Mac and Linux computers. So the instructions now will work for both Mac and Linux computers. On your Mac or Linux, please open the Terminal app. Then in the terminal write touch this symbol, which you can also get it from here. You can copy it from there and paste it here if you don't know what it is on your keyboard. /.zshrc semicolon, and then open that file zshrc. So what we're doing is we are creating a new file in this directory, and then we are opening that file. Sorry, I missed a space between open and the actual file. So open is the command. Press that. That will open this file, which might be empty in your case, perhaps. And so here is where you add more environment variables. I do have an environment variable already, so I'll add another one with this command. Export password is equal to the actual password of your Gmail account. So what I'm doing is that I'm storing the password now on my Mac account, my Mac user account. That means if I run Python on this Mac account, for example, let's start a Python console here, and if I import os, and then I do os.get env, as we're doing here, and then here you give the name you gave to the environment variable, which was again, let me open that file again. So the name of the environment variable was password, right? Passwords. That's the name of the variable, and that's the actual value of the variable. So you give the name here as a string, password. And if you don't get a value, that means you need to restart PyCharm. So quit PyCharm with Command Q on your Mac, and then start it again. Then go to the Python console, import os, then os.getEnv, password, press enter, and there we go. So now we get the value of that environment variable. So the variable is password, its value is that one. So what does that mean now for security? Well, that means that the only person who knows the password now is you, because you have access to your user account on your Mac. So that's what makes the password secure. If you leave the password as a plain string on your Python file, it's very likely that other people will see it. And that's how you can make your Python programs more secure when you have sensitive information inside your .py files. That's how you add environment variables on Windows, Mac, and Linux. So thanks a lot for following this. See you later.